Hello, movie lovers, and welcome to our movie review for Batman vs. Superman. This is the non-spoiler review portion of this thing. Now, what we're going to do is, after this show gets over with, we're going to go on ahead. That's right, we're actually going to cross universes with Roberto's channel and actually do a spoilers review of Batman vs. Superman. So, go on ahead and also check out the movie channel after we get done doing this, because I'm going to cross over to his channel. And we might actually do a little bit Batman versus Superman on his channel, where we're going to fight each other. So, anyways, without further ado, I'm going to talk about my positives about this film. And
hang on, before we begin, I want to give a just a kind of a brief warning. I guess you could call it, because I do want you to enjoy this movie, and I do have a way I feel about this movie, but I don't want you to be like me and have the movie ruined. So I'm going to give y'all a very brief to do or not to do before watching this movie. Stay away from trailer number 2 of this movie, because if you watch trailer number 2 of this movie, for some reason Warner Brothers decided to give us a outline of the film in trailer number 2 of this of Batman vs. Superman: A Dawn of Justice. And when I was in the movie watching it, I realized very quickly in the last 30 minutes that it had given away everything. If you have a basic knowledge of the comics, and if you saw trailer number 2, the entire third act is nothing new, and it's something you've already seen, and it made me angry. So I don't want you to do that. I want you to enjoy this film. So if you've seen trailer number 2, block it from your mind. Use some Jedi mind tricks and block it from your mind. But just if you haven't seen trailer number 2, which is I think the theatrical trailer for this film, do not watch it, because it will ruin it. For that matter, don't watch any of the trailers for this movie, because they ruin the best parts of this movie, which is terrible that I'm saying that, but the best parts of this movie are ruined via the trailers. So with that said, don't watch the trailers for this movie. Just go right in with nothing, because if you watch the trailers and then go watch this movie, you will be disappointed at how much is ruined by those trailers.
all right. So this is gonna be my positives for this thing. First off, and everything, yes, the trailers did give away too much, because hey, they decided to go on and throw everything at us at one time because they didn't know how to market this thing, or supposedly they were smoking some weed or something and thought it was a good idea to go on ahead and give us something that was a little too much. But
You know how I said that the Deadpool people that did the marketing should get like a raise?
right,
These people need to get fired. These people need to get fired, because as a comic book fan and as a movie reviewer, critic, and just passionate person, I watch everything that comes out, because I'm not in the mentality of, oh, the movie studios are going to ruin their own movie for me. And yet, that's exactly what Warner Brothers did with Batman vs Superman, essentially ruining the movie. And it was just, I'm like, I'm trying to rack my brain around it, because I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you shoot yourself in the face with a movie that is basically launching your DCEU? Because Band of Steel didn't do that. This is the one that's the springboard that they're trying to sell us on. And they're shooting themselves in the forehead with their trailer. So obviously they didn't talk to Zack Snyder about, the trailers they were releasing, just gave him a bunch of clips and said, here, make this into a trailer. But they gave away a bunch of this movie in the trailers, and it was awful.
all right. Well, another thing too is, like, okay, this is my positives for this movie. First off, I love the little nuggets with nods to the Dark Knight. I love that aspect. Another thing too is I had check marks that that I wanted to see from this movie. Number one, yes, the trailer did spoil it for me, but this is not technically a spoiler because everybody knows they fight Doomsday. But my checklist was, give us an awesome fight with them facing off against Doomsday. Check. Number two, give me a good fight between Batman and Superman. I got that. Number three, let Ben Affleck be the best Batman and the best Bruce Wayne that was humanly possibly that he could have done. And that was another. Those were the 3 check marks that I managed to check off the thing. So that's the positive from my list on that part as far as that goes. And then everybody's raving about Gal Gadot or whatever. But for me personally, she stole the show. But she only said a few lines. She didn't really have much to say. And it seemed like just a cardboard box kind of deal to where how she was talking. But she didn't ruin this movie at all or anything like that. But I just felt like, it was kind of like me watching Dave Bautista play playing Guardians of the Galaxy. They made a script specifically for him because of the fact that he's not a strong actor, and even admitted that into the interview. But to have that kind of script lined up for Wonder Woman, who's going to be leading her own movie, makes me kind of hesitant a little bit, maybe kind of afraid that this is just going to be a cardboard box character rather than someone that can actually carry her own franchise. But aside from that, I believe Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman because of her facial expressions and the way that she was able to carry herself as Wonder Woman facing off against Doomsday. And then as well, she was carrying herself into the party aspect. But I just have that one little small thing that I'm kind of worried about. But other than that, it was good.
I disagreed with that. I loved, and we disagree. We don't really, see eye to eye on a few things, and that's okay. That's what having different eyes, reviewing the same film's all about.
Right.
But that being said, I loved Gal Gadot. I thought that made me excited because that's the next DCEU movie coming out is Wonder Woman after Suicide Squad next year. Suicide Squad's coming out in August, by the way, which I am still excited for, partially because of the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer. But I thought that she did an excellent job. I was not expecting Wonder Woman to be anything special, and it ended up being really well. She played up the mystique. She played up the, and the funny thing is that Wonder Woman is not like Catwoman in the sense that she's the sensual character, but she played up that mysterious sensuality, especially around Bruce Wayne, that I thought, she's interesting out of the costume. I want to see what she's like in the costume. And when she put it on and they gave her like one of those like moments where you're supposed to clap, but it is awesome because you are clapping and you're into it. So I did like that. I did like Wonder Woman. And I am really excited for that. Actually, of the 3, of the DC Trinity, the one that really just irked me, and I'm gonna say why later, in the spoiler review. So if you haven't seen it, go watch the movie and then come back to the spoiler review. Is Batman. Because for me, Batman is my favorite of the big 3. He's the one that I've grown up on. He's the one that's had the most movies, and some of them are good. Some of them have not been. But this is the chance. This is the one. It was being touted as the definitive Batman, and it didn't do it. It did not do it for me. And that's not the knock on Ben Affleck because his Bruce Wayne was perfect, and I thought the way he played Bruce Wayne was perfect. But when he put on the cowl and what Batman does in the film, not to ruin anything, but what Batman does in the film and how he carries himself is not what I was expecting. The tone of Batman is good, and just certain things he does, which I will go into in the spoiler review, just were like, you've ruined Batman. And if this were 3 movies down the line where we had seen a Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman character behave and move and react and live in this world, if it was like the 3rd movie, I would have been fine with the choices they made. But because this is the first outing of Batman, of this new Batman that they're selling us as the definitive Batman, I had a problem with that. But I thought, and in that vein, I thought Henry Cavill did a good job as Superman, although I felt his character was a little bit reactive, meaning that he was reacting to what Lex Luthor was doing, what Batman was doing. He was never his own character. And I feel that they did that because he's the only one that's had his own movie so far, so they kind of sidelined him. But I'm like, if this guy is one of the 2 people on your title, then you cannot sideline one of your main characters. And I feel that that was a minor draw from the movie because it was like, you're okay, well, you have him in the title and he's one of the big players and you sidelined him. I honestly believe that they did the whole Batman versus Superman thing to draw people because that's the big name. Because if they would have named the movie Dawn of Justice, which it should have been named just Dawn of Justice, then I would be fine with it. But the way that they set up the movie, it's funny because a lot of the stuff I have to say about this movie ties into its marketing. It's terrible, terrible, terrible marketing. And I need to judge a movie based on that because that's what's leading you into the movie. That's what you're seeing as a fan. And you're like, ooh, this is supposed to make me want to see it. This is supposed to make me want to. And then you go into the movie, you shell out your money, you sit there, and you're just disappointed at the choices that they made in their marketing, which made you overexcited to see the finished product. And then the finished product is nowhere near as good as it should have been. That being said, they are releasing a director's cut. They call it, what is it called? The Ultimate Cut, which is 3 hours long. And I'm going to buy that, and I think I'm going to like that much better because the movie is choppy, especially the first half. It cuts around violently, and some of the story arcs, they go nowhere. It feels like it's driven to the point of Batman versus Superman, the fight, which is no mystery. It's there. So the whole movie draws you to that point, but the story is not strong enough, and they try to jam too much into it to play right. And I think that with more footage in there and not a lot cut out, I think it could flow more. So I'm excited to see the Ultimate Cut, and so that's one of the movies I'm going to do for my second viewing reviews, where I review a movie again, because I think that will give it a more fair shake than what the theatrical cut was like. It's funny because today Warner Brothers released a deleted scene, and I'm like, so you've had, because this movie was done, it was wrapped production in 2014. They've had a year and a half to work on this movie and its editing. Why would you give us a badly edited movie when you have a year and a half to do it? Pirates 3 had just as many elements and had a more streamlined story than you, and had a production schedule that was tighter than yours by 3 times. So why would you do that, especially when your film is supposed to be leading into this big universe? Why would you shoot yourself in the forehead and then in the foot this badly? That it's just it irks me as a fan and as somebody that wants to love these characters and as a lover of Batman. It just the choices.
For me personally, I like the way Ben. I'll get into this in the spoiler review and stuff like that about why I like Ben and the way his behavior and stuff, because I actually felt like the behavior was actually pretty good. But that's just my own personal opinion. But
well, no, I'm talking about something very specific, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. And that's what I'm
tell you here.
but I think I have. That's what I'm saying. I actually know the behavior lines. I think that you're talking about,
right?
And everything. And I think I'm gonna find out that it's. For me personally, I thought it was okay for the tone that he was playing. I felt like he was a believable Batman and a believable Bruce. I felt like he did that line pretty good. Like you said, the negative part for me was the editing. It was all over the place, yes. But it didn't really...
It got better in the second half.
It did. It did. But for that
the first half was just everywhere.
It was like me filming with ADD. Didn't know where to go. Especially the dream sequences. But
they had, like, here, I think there's one word that can sum up, or 2 words that can sum up the editing in this movie. No segues. There was no connective tissue between the scenes. It was rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire, rapid fire, dream sequence, rapid fire, rapid fire. And there was no, like, organic story to connect the dots.
Actually, I connected the dots pretty well, especially with... I'm going to get that into the spoilers as well. But as for this is the whole thing that why I want to do a spoiler-free one, because I want to just talk about the acting ability of each person.
Right.
Too. Like, for instance, Jeremy Irons as Alfred was very spot on to how Arkham Asylum was from the PlayStation game. and everything else. It was
Yeah.
very spot on. I like the fact that they chose a younger Alfred because in the comics, there's actually one thing in the comics where Alfred is just a baddie. You know what I'm saying? He's just a baddie.
Yeah.
He actually kicked some people's butts in one of the comic books.
I
And
feel
that's
that
what
some of the story for him was cut out too, because I heard in the marketing that he was supposed to be, and this is not really a spoiler, that he was supposed to be like this fighter from the, like he was in the military and he was a war hero. And I'm like, okay, cool. None of that came through in the movie.
maybe I think they might have felt like maybe that might just be pushing it a little bit too much, especially whenever he's just a side character, maybe.
Well, but this
But
is like the parent figure for Bruce.
But I also feel like maybe they might actually touch on that on a standalone Batman movie.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping too.
So maybe they figured, okay, we have his backstory. Maybe we can add that into the standalone Batman movie.
I'm just excited to see J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon. I'm just gonna lay it out.
I think it's gonna be epic. I think. It's
Oh my word, it's gonna be great.
Seeing Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White again, that was a great casting choice. You see, we didn't get to see much of what he was like in Man of Steel, but once you actually get into the whole entire newspaper reads, da 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 da. I'm like, this is Perry White. This is the Perry White that I remember reading in the comic books and watching the Christopher Reeves movies and everything. I said, yep, he's actually got that down path. I actually felt like he was very spot on with that role and knows what he's doing. So therefore, I'm comfortable with Lawrence Fishburne playing Perry White.
I'm thankful you said that because I want to give a disclaimer here, and I think that a lot of people if you watch my videos, you think that because you change. I'm one of those people that if you change something from the comics, then that I get angry. That's not necessarily the case, and Lawrence Fishburne is one of them. And I'm not saying this because yes, the character in the comics is white and Lawrence Fishburne is black, that I'm gonna say, oh well, you can't have that because he's not the same skin tone. And no, and here's why. That was an improvement, and that was something that was done well. They picked a good actor for the character. I don't care about whether he's black or white as long as he's doing the character well. That's why if you were to give us a black Spider-Man, for example, as long as the actor's fine, I wouldn't mind because he would be Miles Morales. But
it's just as they didn't choose the casting choice to benefit the actor, like they did with Fantastic Four.
Right. Now, I'll give you that on its head and give you the negative. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. No bueno. No bueno. He had good moments, but the character as a whole was a whole. But I'm just kidding. That joke didn't land. It didn't work. He had the best joke in the movie, but other than that, it was just bland. It was like he was playing Mark Zuckerberg all over again, which that's not who Lex Luthor is.
Well, for me personally, I thought he did a good job with it. I felt like he was spot on with Lex because this is actually Lex's son. I found that out. This is not
but
like.
Was it confirmed though?
Well, it says Alexander. Remember on one part it said Alexander Luthor.
Right. So, well, but I mean, but that's the name of the guy too. He's Alexander. Right. They just call him Lex.
Right. Okay. So.
Well, I don't know. It could be right. I'm just saying, but still, that's not a cop out.
Well, another thing too is that I was thinking about, and. A fan on our page actually brought this up and everything. What if Darkseid was actually controlling how he was thinking and acting?
Are you thinking you're thinking because of that one scene?
Yeah, but that's in spoilers. I'm not going to get to that part though.
No, that's why I said that one scene because I don't want to reveal where it is in the movie or anything because that'll draw conclusions. But yeah, I get that. And that's again, they did not. This film is ambitious. but not successful in its ambition. If
I
that
feel
makes sense. It
right.
tried to give you a lot of stuff, and it gave you a bunch of stuff, but it never gave you all of what you were expecting in any of that bunch of stuff.
Let's see. Another thing too is with the whole Lex Luthor thing played by Jesse. I I said this in my review, my written review I did, where I said I think if he would have toned it down just a little bit, and where he wasn't so over the top, I think it would work better. But
Right.
I could actually see him at the party being all flattery and everything with his guests, pretending he's being something good, and
Here's
then
what
in the
I thought
show,
about. Here's what I thought about Eisenberg. I thought, because we'd see all the trailers you saw, especially the party scene. I thought that he was tricking everybody,
right,
and
exactly,
that was like his face that he puts on in public
right.
to
That's the way I'm getting at.
I was wrong, and I didn't like that I was wrong in that case, because I'm like, then yeah, he just became teenage Lex Luthor who is still popping his pimples in the sink, and not Lex Luthor who can take on Superman and is wise and is smart and is cunning. He never felt like Lex Luthor. He kind of felt like Mark Zuckerberg
I don't know. I didn't see that in
in
him.
in Social Network. Like, not maybe not the
Right,
person, but what he played in Social
right,
Network.
I don't know what you're saying, but I just didn't see that. I didn't see that in him on that part. I actually saw him
I think
as
for
some.
Luther, for me, I think I need to see more of Luther. Just like with Batman, I need to see more of Batman to be sold on him as a character. Wonder Woman, I'm sold. I'm there. Let's do it. Let's go. I'm gonna go watch your movie. Same with the other Justice League members, which you see briefly, but everybody knows that. I'm not gonna tell you how. But you do see them briefly. And I'm sold on them, except for Aquaman, because the way they did him was a little hokey. It kind of felt like it was. Did Batman vs Superman turn low budget for a second? But
You felt like a little CW for you.
yeah, I'm watching the CW of Aquaman, not the big screen version of Aquaman. But anyway, other than that, I'm excited for and that's the thing. Some of the elements of the Dawn, because this movie is really two movies put together. It's Batman vs Superman and Dawn of Justice, and the two halves are very distinct. And parts of both appealed to me. Parts of both were iffy. And for me, this movie, and that's why I'm going to give this movie a 7 out of 10. No, you know what? 6.5 out of 10 because of Eisenberg. For me, it's a 6.5 out of 10 because of that. Because it did do some things right. It was ambitious, and I'll give it credit for that because it was going to be a 6.
Another thing, too,
But
is I didn't
it had too much feeling. What is it?
I also felt like it wasn't overcrowded at all. I felt like that they did a very good job at not overcrowding.
Are you talking about movie, like character-wise?
Character-wise, it wasn't overcrowded.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Because, and a lot of people are comparing this movie to Age of Ultron. I don't think that's a fair assessment for this reason. The Avengers films, and I'm talking about Avengers and Age of Ultron, have very simplistic stories, but are character-driven films. So that if the characters are done well and if the interactions are done well, the movie succeeds. It's not so much about the plot. The plots are very simple for both of them. Now, Batman vs Superman is a plot-driven film, so even if you have good characters, which they don't always do, the movie doesn't sell because it's already told you that it's a plot-driven film, and it's evident in the first 30 minutes by the way the movie's edited and by the way that the movie flows. This is a plot-driven film, driven to get to one point and then the other point and then the other point. So, and it did not do that well. I think if it would have approached it as a character-driven film, driven solely on Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, it would have been much more successful than what happened here. Again, and now I'm going to reserve final judgment until I see the ultimate cut, because I feel that that version is the version I was supposed to see in the theaters and never got. So I'm not going to say whether or not this movie is really that, I'm not going to give the final judgment. I'm just going to judge it for this review. So I'm going to wait until the ultimate cut and seeing that, and then give my actual thoughts, because I think that was the version we were supposed to see all along. And I kind of wish that Warner Brothers had been gutsy enough to show us that and give us a 3-hour movie in the theater for once, because you needed it. With that much into it, you needed that. So, and they didn't.
Well, another thing too is you mentioned Henry Cavill as Superman. I felt like he wasn't. Now, we always see our differences and stuff like that. But for me personally, I didn't see him as just a little sitting on the sidelines or whatever. I actually saw him have more of a character development. I felt like he delivered his lines perfectly. I felt like he had a lot more runtime. I didn't feel like he was overshadowed by Batman at all, because in the trailers, it seemed like Batman was overshadowing Superman a lot. But that's only because of the fact that, we already got our Superman. We already know what Henry Cavill is going to do as Superman. So therefore, we didn't know how Ben was actually going to bring his A game to the new
Right.
universe for Batman. So that was the purpose of the marketing for that. But
Right.
I also felt like, I actually believe that Henry Cavill was Superman this time. He had a little bit more time on Earth to actually know his abilities. He knows what he's doing. This is not his first day on Earth like it was on Man of Steel.
Right.
And so he knows what his limits are and what he's supposed to do to help people, opposed to using it too much of his power to kill someone on an accident.
Right.
So I felt that.
No, what I think, because for me, and maybe we disagree entirely. I want to clarify. What I meant was, we follow Bruce Wayne more to the conflict than we do Henry Cavill's Superman. Because he's the one that he's being the detective, and I'm trying to use very vague terminology. He's being the detective, and he's discovering all this stuff, and Superman just feels like they're getting him to this point, but he's more reacting off of what Bruce Wayne does, what Lex Luthor does, what Lois Lane does, more than he's driving himself to the conflict in whatever organic way they choose to do it. They never did that. So that's why I feel he was more reactionary.
I got you.
But that was me.
But so I know I gave this movie a 3.9 out of 5 last time. So, and I actually managed to actually think about things and stuff like that.
I was ready to give this movie a 1.5 out of 5 when when I first saw it. I was that angry at this movie, but I'm like, through the weekend, I'm like, I think if I watch this movie again now, having seen it once and the initial reactions over, I think I will enjoy the second viewing of this movie if I go back in theaters and watch it than I did the first.
I feel like this too. Maybe if you view it as maybe a graphic novel come to life, maybe you might actually enjoy it maybe a little bit more.
Maybe.
I'm just giving you a perspective or whatever. But
right.
But
I mean, and here's the thing. I went into this movie because and one of the main draws for this movie for me is Batman. So I went into this movie thinking, okay, I'm going to enjoy this movie. And then all of it happened, and I'm sitting there going, I hate you. I walked out, like, I swear, the movie cut to black at the end. I got up out of my seat and stomped out of the theater. I was that angry. Because, and I'm like, oh, well, Civil War, come on, please do not disappoint me. Because if you do, all my hope is in Apocalypse, and I'm not feeling Apocalypse either. So and I was so pessimistic about it. but I think that, and again, because I got the news the day after that they were releasing the ultimate cut, I then the heat subsided and the bubbles that rose were going down a little bit because I'm like, okay, maybe Warner Brothers realized that they kind of screwed the pooch on this one and they're going to release what we should have seen anyway on DVD. So I'm going to enjoy it anyway later. So I mean, it's such a mixed bag. It's because I want to enjoy it and I want to say good things about it, but I cannot but acknowledge the fact that some of it's just garbage.
Let's see here. I'm actually gonna go bring my score up maybe to a 4 out of 5 this time.
Oh, you no.
Yes, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5
Okay.
because I had time to think about it. I had time to think about the positives as well as the negatives. And
You liked it more than I did initially, anyway.
Right, because I think because of the fact I viewed it as a graphic novel
Yeah.
rather than a new movie universe. I think that's why I enjoyed it a lot better.
You know,
So
and I watched this movie and I'm thinking, I've seen Watchmen and I like Watchmen and I've seen 300, the first one, and I've seen both, but I've seen 300. I love 300. I absolutely love 300. I love how that movie's filmed, and it felt kind of like 300. But here's the problem with 300, and here's the problem I think, and it's funny. Somebody pointed out, I can't remember which movie reviewer I was watching, but Michael Bay and Zack Snyder went to the same film school, and boy does it show. Now, that being said, Zack Snyder is able to make better stories and have movies a better story. However, both of them have a keen eye for making beautiful action, and it shows.
right.
So I think that, and I'm using his past cinematography, Zack Snyder's, not Michael Bay's. When it's a simplistic story, he shines as a director. When it's a complex story, not as much. Now, that's not to say he stinks, but not as much. Because you look at 300, very simplistic story. Persians are coming. We got to rally the troops. These 300 men are the only ones that can go, and let's just go beat them. And the movie excels because it's all the visuals is all that you need to sell the movie and the good action scenes.
I don't know if you saw Sucker Punch.
I have not, but I've heard that was like his nail in the coffin.
It was really not that great, but
I heard it was complex.
It was,
and
but
that's and it feeds to my logic of when it is too muddy, he doesn't do well. When it's a simplistic story and there's just okay, go for it. Then because Watchmen had a simple story, they killed the one dude, and then the Watchmen are trying to uncover the plot. Simple story.
Yeah, they killed the comedian. And
the comedian.
Find out.
The comedian.
Right. But
simple story. A lot of things in that story, but they are branching off of the main storyline.
Right. But the visual effects for Sucker Punch was actually pretty neat. But it reminded me of a music video.
That's what everybody says.
It reminds me of a music video opposed to a movie. So,
but do you see my point, though? Every time that he has a simple story, he thrives on that. But when it's a little bit more complex and a little bit more in depth, he does not do as well. And I'm not saying that he's bad. He just doesn't do as well. And I think that his cinematography shows that.
Right.
So again, I'm gonna just reserve the right to judge. The real judgment will be when the ultimate cut comes out and I can see it. Because right now I'm not too impressed, but I'm willing to hold off permanent judgment on this movie till then.
Right. I'm actually gonna do a director's cut review as well.
Oh, we should do that.
Yeah, we are definitely.
I think I'm gonna be happier. I think I will be happier doing that review.
All right. So, anyways,
from what I hear, and this is what I heard, a lot of the stuff in the first act, where they cut a lot around and it's very quick, a lot of those storylines that they introduce are fleshed out more. This is from his mouth. A lot of the action is increased. A lot of it's more brutal, but a lot of the storyline is put back in. And I'm like, see, that just gives me hope that it's going to flow better. So hopefully.
So, that pretty much concludes our spoiler-free review. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Roberto gave it. What did you give it,
3.5.
Roberto?
3.5.
Okay. So therefore, this is our spoiler-free review. In a few minutes or so, we're gonna end up doing our spoiler review. So I'm gonna be, like I said, I am gonna be crossing universes with Roberto on the movie channel. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you check out the movie channel spoiler review. And not only that, but also have that into the description below, so that way you guys can actually click on that later on. So if you like this video, click like, subscribe, and don't forget to comment. And until next time, bye-bye.